Sebelum kalian melanjutkan video ini, jangan lupa like, komen, subscribe, dan aktifkan loncengnya.
Now read along as the directions for Part C are being read. Part C, Directions. In this part of the test, you will hear several short talks. After each talk, you will hear some questions. The talks and the questions will not be repeated. After you hear a question, read the 4 possible answers in your test book and choose the best answer. Then, on your answer sheet, find the number of the question and fill in the space that corresponds to the letter of the answer you have chosen. Here is an example. On the recording you hear, "Listen to an instructor talk to his class about a television program."
I'd like to tell you about an interesting TV program that'll be shown this coming Thursday. It'll be on from 9 to 10 p.m. on Channel 4. It's part of a series called Mysteries of Human Biology. And the subject of the program is the human brain, how it functions and how it can malfunction. Topics that will be covered are dreams, memory, and depression. These topics are illustrated with outstanding computer animation that makes the explanations easy to follow. Make an effort to see this show. Since we've been studying the nervous system in class, I know you'll find it very helpful.
Now listen to a sample question. What is the main purpose of the program? In your test book, you read, A, to demonstrate the latest use of computer graphics. B, to discuss the possibility of an economic depression. C, to explain the workings of the brain. D, to dramatize a famous mystery story. The best answer to the question, what is the main purpose of the program, is C, to explain the workings of the brain. Therefore, the correct choice is C. Now listen to another sample question. Why does the speaker recommend watching the program? In your test book, you read, A, it is required of all science majors. B, it will never be shown again. C, it can help viewers improve their memory skills. D, it will help with coursework. The best answer to the question, why does the speaker recommend watching the program, is D. It will help with coursework. Therefore, the correct choice is D. Remember, you are not allowed to take notes or write in your test book. Go on to the next page. Now we will begin Part C with the first talk. Questions 39 through 43. Listen to a talk about amber in a biology class.
I'm going to pass this piece of amber around so you can see this spider trapped inside it. It's a good example of an amber inclusion, one of the inclusions that scientists are interested in these days. This particular piece is estimated to be about 20 million years old. Please be extremely careful not to drop it. Amber shatters as easily as glass. One thing I really like about amber is its beautiful golden color. Now, how did the spider get in there? Amber is really fossilized tree resin. Lots of chunks of amber contain insects like this one, or animal parts like feathers, or even plants. Here's how it happens. The resin oozes out of a tree, and the spider or leaf gets encased in it. Over millions and millions of years, the resin hardens and fossilizes into the semi-precious stone you see here. Amber can be found in many different places around the world, but the oldest deposits are right here in the United States, in Appalachia. It's found in several other countries too, though right now scientists are most interested in amber coming from the Dominican Republic, because it has a great many inclusions, something like 1 insect inclusion for every 100 pieces. One possible explanation for this is that the climate is tropical, and a greater variety and number of insects thrive in the tropics than in other places. What's really interesting is that scientists are now able to recover DNA from these fossils and study the genetic material for important clues to evolution.
Number 39. Why does the professor pass the amber around to the students? Number 40. When the professor mentions glass in the talk, what point is he trying to make about amber? Number 41. What is amber derived from? Number 42. Why is the Dominican Republic an important source of amber? Number 43. What type of amber is probably the most valuable for genetic research? Questions 44 through 46. Listen to part of a lecture in an American history class.
Now, we've been talking about the Revolutionary period in United States history, when the colonies wanted to separate from England. I'd like to mention one point about a very famous episode from that period, a point I think is pretty relevant even today. I'm sure you remember from when you were children the story of Paul Revere's famous horseback ride through the Massachusetts countryside. In that version, he single-handedly alerted the people that the British were coming. We have this image of a solitary rider galloping along in the dark from one farmhouse to another. And of course, the story emphasized the courage of one man and made him a hero in our history books, right? But that rather romantic version of the story is not what actually happened that night. In fact, that version misses the most important point entirely. Paul Revere was only one of many riders helping deliver the message that night. Just one part of a prearranged plan that was thought out well in advance in preparation for just such an emergency. I don't mean to diminish Revere's role, though. He was actually an important organizer and promoter of this group effort for freedom. These midnight riders didn't just go knocking on farmhouse doors. They also awakened the institutions of New England. They went from town to town and engaged the town leaders, the military commanders, volunteer groups, even church leaders, people who would then continue to spread the word. My point is that Paul Revere and his political party understood, probably more clearly than later generations ever have, that political institutions are there as a kind of medium for the will of the people, and also to both build on and support individual action. They knew that success required careful planning and organization. The way they went about their work that night made a big difference in the history of this country.
Number 44. What does the story of Paul Revere usually emphasize? Number 45. What new information does the speaker provide about Paul Revere? Number 46. What does the speaker imply is most significant about the ride of Paul Revere? Questions 47 through 50. Listen to part of a talk in a history of science class.
Let me warn you against a mistake that historians of science often make. They sometimes assume that people in the past used the same concepts we do. There's a wonderful example that made news in the history of mathematics a while ago. It concerns an ancient Mesopotamian tablet that had some calculations on it using square numbers. The calculations look an awful lot like calculations of the length of the sides of a triangle. So that's what many historians assume they were. But using square numbers to do this is a very sophisticated technique. If the Mesopotamians knew how to do it, and historians started thinking that they did, well, then their math was incredibly advanced. Well, it turns out that the idea that Mesopotamians used square numbers to calculate the length of triangle sides is probably wrong. Why? Because we discovered that Mesopotamians didn't know how to measure angles, which is a crucial element in the whole process of triangle calculations. Apparently, the Mesopotamians had a number of other uses for square numbers. These other uses were important, but they were not used with triangles. And so these tablets, in all likelihood, were practice sheets, if you like, for doing simpler math exercises with square numbers. In all likelihood, it was the ancient Greeks who first calculated the length of triangle sides using square numbers. And this was hundreds of years after the Mesopotamians.
Number 47. What is the main purpose of the talk? Number 48. According to the professor, what did some historians mistakenly assume about the Mesopotamians? Number 49. What was on the Mesopotamian tablet mentioned in the talk? Number 50. What does the professor imply about the ancient Greeks? This is the end of Section 1, Listening Comprehension. Stop work on Section 1. This is a reminder. At the end of the test, the supervisor will collect all of the test books. You may not leave until all of the test books have been collected.